Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dive into what is, without a doubt, one of the most foundational essays of the 20th century. We're talking about Audre Lorde's powerful work, Age, Race, Class, and Sex, Women Redefining Difference. All right, let's get right into it. Right from the jump, Lorde just completely reframes the entire conversation. The problem, she says, isn't that we're all different. Of course we are. The real problem is that we either pretend we aren't, or worse, we use those differences as a weapon. This one idea, right here, is the key to unlocking her entire argument. It's a challenge to look at what makes us different in a totally new way. So, okay, where does this problem even come from? Well, Lorde argues it all starts with how we're taught to think. She says Western society basically conditions us to see difference not as this rich, beautiful spectrum of human experience, but as an automatic source of conflict. Now, this might seem pretty basic, but trust me, it underpins everything. We're literally trained to think in these simple binaries. For one person to be up, another person has to be down. For one group to be seen as superior, another has to be cast as inferior. And Lorde is very clear. This is not an accident. It's actually a necessary tool for an economy that needs to have a dehumanized group of people to exploit. You know, this kind of binary thinking leaves us with a really limited toolkit. When we're faced with difference, we're basically programmed to react in one of three ways. We can pretend it doesn't exist, we can try to copy it and assimilate into whatever's dominant, or we can try to destroy whatever is seen as subordinate. And here's Lorde's crucial point. We have no models, no examples for just relating to each other as equals across all of our differences. So how is this whole system of superior and inferior kept in place? Lorde gives us this incredibly powerful concept for understanding it. She calls it the mythical norm. Think of this like society's invisible yardstick. It's the factory default setting for what a normal human being is supposed to be, and everybody else gets measured as a deviation from that. And what's so important here is that this isn't just some abstract idea, it is the very place where real power is concentrated. And there it is, just laid bare. This is the mold. And as you look at this list, Lorde says something really profound. Deep down, in our hearts, every single one of us knows that is not me. I mean, who actually fits this entire description? Almost nobody. We all stand outside this norm in some way, which means we're all measured as different or deviant on some level. So let's play this out. What happens when we try to build movements for change, like the women's movement, while totally ignoring these very real, very tangible differences that exist between us? Well, the result, Lorde warns us, isn't unity. It's actually division. Wow, this is such a direct challenge to any kind of feminism that only centers one kind of woman's experience. Lorde is arguing that this pretense of sameness, this idea that we're all the same, is incredibly dangerous because it just erases unique struggles and ultimately weakens the entire movement. Let's look at some specific damage this can do. I mean, take something as seemingly subtle as class. Say a women's magazine decides it's only going to print prose because poetry is seen as less serious. Well, whose voices are they silencing? Lorde points out that poetry is often the art form of the economically pressed. It takes the least time, the least space, the fewest materials. So by ignoring this class difference, the movement is literally robbing itself of crucial creative insight. And it's the exact same thing with age. When a movement just dismisses its older members as excess baggage or irrelevant, it creates what Lorde calls historical amnesia. It's like you're severing the connection to living memory, to all those hard-won lessons, and you're forcing younger generations to start all over from scratch, instead of building on the wisdom of those who came before them. This part really reveals the most serious threat of ignoring difference, race. Lorde shows how a patriarchal system uses totally different tools to neutralize women depending on their race. Black women, she says, can be manipulated and used to work against black men. White women, on the other hand, can be tempted with a little slice of patriarchal power if they just conform. Now, if you refuse to see race, you absolutely cannot see these completely different traps. So, after so powerfully laying out the problem, Lorde does something amazing. She pivots to a radical and actually really hopeful solution. What if difference wasn't a barrier we had to overcome, but a vital source of untapped power? And this, right here, this is the core of her entire argument. We're sitting on a gold mine of creative potential, a massive resource, but we just haven't built the tools to access it. Our actual survival, she says, depends on us learning how to use our differences, not for separation, but for creation and for innovation. So the crucial point is this. The goal is not to erase difference or pretend it doesn't matter. The goal is to build a whole new way of relating to each other, one that completely throws out that dominant/subordinate model we've all been taught and replaces it with genuine, real equality. And this is the work she lays out for us. It's an active, conscious process. It means looking directly at our differences, really understanding how society has twisted them, and then collaboratively figuring out how to forge them into a tool that strengthens everyone's vision and everyone's ability to struggle together. But Lorde doesn't stop there, not by a long shot. She leaves us with one final and truly profound challenge. The work isn't just about changing society out there. It's about changing the society that lives inside of each of us. This is probably her most famous line, and for really good reason. It's such a powerful metaphor. It argues that we cannot use the same patterns of thinking that created the problem in the first place, things like oppression, fear of difference, binary logic, to build a truly liberated world. You just can't tear down a system of hierarchy using hierarchical methods. And Lorde is just unflinchingly honest here. She makes it so clear that these oppressive structures aren't just external things like institutions or laws. No, they exist inside of us. We have all internalized the master's tools. We have these old blueprints of oppression built right into us. We carry them around. And this brings us to the very heart of her conclusion. She cites the educator Paulo Freire and argues that the real revolution has to be internal. The true target for change isn't just the enemy on the outside, it's that piece of the oppressor that's planted deep inside our own minds, the part of us that only knows their tactics and their ways of relating to other people. Audre Lorde's essay doesn't give us any easy, comfortable answers. It doesn't wrap things up in a neat little bow. Instead, it leaves us with the essential, lifelong question that all true and lasting change really depends on. It asks us to turn inward and begin the difficult but absolutely necessary work of dismantling the master's house from within.